Hey guys, it's Vanya and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to review my 24 books for 2024 list. So in the beginning of this year, I made a list of 24 books that I want to read this year. I figured that it will be fun to just go through each book in the list and I'll just tell you whether I read it or I haven't read it, and if I have read it, whether it's a yes maybe or no for you to read the book as well. So the first book that I have on this list is Babel by R.F. Kuang, and I have finished this book a couple weeks ago and I absolutely loved it, so this book is a yes for me. The second book that I put on my list is The Twyford Code by Janice Hallett. I have the physical copy of the book. I just haven't got the time around to read it. Whenever I finish the book, my mind is distracted on reading another book. So this has just not been the right time for me to read the book. So hopefully next year or by the end of this year. And then the third book is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I also have a physical copy of this book and I haven't read it. I don't know why, because I've heard so many good things about this book, but I haven't read it. The next book is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Surley. I have read this book right before summer starts, I think, and I absolutely devoured this book, so this book is a yes from me. The next one is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. This book, absolutely yes. Everything that Lynn Painter writes, I will read it. I love her writing, and this book is just no exception. So yes. The next one is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I read The Bodyguard last year and I absolutely loved it, and so I put this on my list, but I haven't read it. I don't know why I feel so ashamed of saying this, but I haven't read any other Catherine Center books. But The Bodyguard was one of my top 5 books that I've read last year, so hopefully I can read this soon. The next book is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. Divine Rivals were just so good, and so I read Ruthless Vows and no regrets, amazing. End of the duology. This is an absolute yes for me. The next book on the list is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This book I have seen everywhere on social media, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but I think they're adapting it to a movie or TV series or something. I don't know, I might be wrong, but I really want to read this book. This is one of that fantasy series that I have been wanting to read for so long, so hopefully I'll be able to read this soon before the end of the year. The next book is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This book, I want to read this book even from those fig tree analogy concept that people have shared everywhere that has been taken from this book, and I feel it's just not the right moment yet for me to read it. I feel this book will change my life, but I don't know why. I feel this is just not the right time for me to read this book. I know that if I get a physical copy of this book, I will devour it. I will annotate it from front to back. But I think it's just not the right time for me yet to read this book, because I feel I know that this book will be my favorite book of all time. So, and also all of the hype surrounding it also kind of makes me very intimidated to go into this book. So soon, hopefully soon. The next book is Funny Story by Emily Henry, which is my most anticipated release of this year, and it did not disappoint. I love it. Anything Emily Henry writes, I will read it. Same as Lynn Painter. Emily Henry is just one of my top authors ever, and so anything she releases, I will buy it. I will devour it, and so Funny Story is an absolute yes for me. The next book is Reckless by Lauren Roberts, which also came out just this year, because last summer I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts and I was so obsessed with it. I recommended to my friends to read it, and so this year when Reckless came out, I'm immediately read it, stopped everything that I was reading just to read this book, and I love it. Is it the best? Not really, but I had a great time. I enjoy my time reading it. So this is a yes for me. The next book is A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. This book, I've been wanting to read this book for so long. Like, I love the Bridge Kingdom series and I love the way Daniel L. Jensen writes, and so this book is just so high on top of my TBR list, but I don't know why I haven't gotten around to reading it. I know that the sequel will come out like next year, I believe, so I really need to read this book before the sequel comes out. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it soon. And the next books in this list, I haven't read any of them, which I am very ashamed to admit, but the books are Begin Again by Emma Lord, When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. I've heard so many good things about Emma Lord when it comes to like YA books, and if you know me, I love YA books. They're just like my comfort zone. You can never go wrong with like a YA book, and so I've been wanting to read like any of Emma Lord's books for so long. Hopefully next year I'll be more in like a romance mood, because I feel like this year I'm more of like in my fantasy era, and so let's see if I can read any of her books like next year. The next book that I haven't got to yet is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I think for me, the thing about this book is everyone has been hyping it up for so long that I am scared to like read this book, because like what if I don't like it? That is one thing that I am still trying to cope with, like not liking books that other people like love. So I'm just too scared of like reading this book. Convince me to read this book. If you have read this book and loved it, convince me in the comments down below, please, because I really want to read it. And the next 3 books that are on this list but I haven't got around to reading it are A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I've heard so many good things about this book. The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. This book, I've heard mixed reviews, so I don't know if I will keep it on my list for next year. I might just end up not reading it at all, but let's see. And then Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This book, one of my good book talk friends like raved about this book, and I just really want to read this book. I feel like I don't have enough time to be able to read all of the books that I want to read. Like, I need more time to read books, but like I'm working full time, so I don't have the time to read a lot of books, and that's totally okay. That is normal. Like, not everyone have a lot of free time in their hands to just read books. And so this book, Legendborn, is still on my TBR. I will read it. I don't know when, but I will read it. And so those are like 18 books. Moving on to like the last 6 books in the list. There's Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This summer, I really wanted to read this book, but I decided to read Yours Truly first by Abby Jimenez before I read this book, because I think it's like in the same universe as like Yours Truly. And so I tried reading Yours Truly. It was really good, but is it my favorite? Not really. So that kind of makes me like somehow skeptical, like wanting to read Just for the Summer, but I will still read it. Maybe next summer. The next book is A Tempest of Tea, which if you watch my previous video, my solo trip vlog, I read that book during my solo trip. I did indeed finish it when the trip ended, which is a good thing. Tempest of Tea is amazing. Absolutely yes for me. It's a really fun escape from the real world, I would say. So if you have been debating on whether you should read or not read A Tempest of Tea, this is your sign to read it. The next book is After All This Time by Jessica Sidney. This is a book that I have been like looking forward to since the beginning of this year. I haven't read this book. I am so ashamed to say this, but I haven't read this book. Moving on to like the last 3 books in the list. We have A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I have like heard so many good things about Ava Reid books and her writing, and I haven't read any of her books. And the next book is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This series, I saw someone the other day like is starting this series, and I feel like that is making me want to start the series, but I am reading a book that is part of a series, so I don't know. Moving on to the last book in this list is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I am actually reading this book, so the series that I was talking about is the Crowns of Nyxia series. I am still on the early chapter of the book because, as I said previously, I was just talking about this. Like, every time I read the book after work, I keep getting so sleepy that I ended up not retaining everything, and then the next day I will just have to like read everything all over again just so that I understand what was happening. And so it has been like a week since I started reading this book. Hopefully I'll finish this book like by the end of the month. Those are the books that are on my 24 books for 2024 list. If there is any books here that I haven't read, that you have read, that you think is amazing, comment down below. I would love to know. Also, check out my Bookstagram account, because like most of the books that I have mentioned I have read in this video, I have a full-on review of it on my Bookstagram account, so check it out if you are interested. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye!